broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Houston, Texas. It's time for Houston Business Radio. Now, here's your host.
Hello, Houston. Tricia Stutzel here, bringing you another episode of Houston Business Radio Beyond the Uniform series. You know what that means. I am pleased to introduce you to my guest and fellow veteran today, Bob Danna is currently retired and serves as a fellow at the Global Curiosity Institute. With more than 5 decades of leadership experience as a physicist, an officer in the U.S. Navy, a consulting engineer, and an expert in enterprise resource planning and human capital management, his life illustrates the power of curiosity in driving a professional and personal life, modeled as a career lattice. Bob, welcome to the show.
Tricia, thank you so much. Really looking forward to our conversation.
I am too. So, Bob, tell us more about you. I know I gave the big, nice summary of all of the amazing things that you've done, but who's Bob?
Yeah, Bob. I'm a New Yorker by birth, and if you ask me, what are you? I'm a New Yorker. I live in Las Vegas right now. That's where I retired. But born in Brooklyn, I grew up on Long Island. A product of the public school system. Elementary school, high school. Went to Hunter College in Manhattan for a bachelor's and master's degree in physics. The education was incredible. Wound up getting recruited by the nuclear Navy in 1975 to teach at the Naval Nuclear Power School. So I was a physicist. The Navy needs physicists and mathematicians and chemists and electrical engineers to teach the officers and enlisted personnel who are operating nuclear reactors on submarines and aircraft carriers. And so did that on active duty, then stayed in the reserves, actually moved over to nuclear weapons and was part of the Theater Nuclear Warfare Project Office. And we were doing work to look at the consequences of and mitigating theater nuclear warfare. So so I know a lot about nuclear weapons. I had a top secret clearance, critical nuclear weapons design information access. But at the same time, I left active duty and then joined a consulting firm in 1980. And I've been a consultant one way or another for 50 years. Initially in science and engineering, then in IT, then in human performance, because that's probably the most interesting thing that a scientist can look at is what makes a human, and what can I do to address human performance. And then ultimately, I was a managing director at Deloitte Consulting, and consulting in the areas of human performance, and so it was quite a run, all things considered. And I'm still very active. So I retired formally now about probably 6-7 years ago, but I am very involved in the community, both local community and my professional community, and it's give back time. So my definition of retirement for the audience is I no longer take any money or compensation of any kind for whatever I do. So it's all 100% pro bono. I'm doing it because I love it. If I don't love what I'm doing, I don't do it. So, it also means I no longer have any milestones, deliverables. I no longer am required. Sometimes I do, but required to get up at 3 a.m. to take a call from Europe or in the midnight for Asia, whatever. That's my definition. It's that kind of me. So it's. I'm having a good life. Like I said, live in Las Vegas, still travel 4 or 5 months out of the year. And so it's, I can't complain.
Amazing. You have lived such a full life, and thank you for your service, and thank you for your service again, post-service, and what you're doing today. So, Bob, I happen to know that you released your memoir just last year called My Curious Life. Tell me more about that and why you decided to write My Curious Life.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Tricia. Actually, the title is My Curious Life. If my grandkids ask about me, tell them this. So number one, I'm not assuming that my grandkids will ever ask about, so what did grandpa actually do? I don't think my daughter knows. Or, it's hard to explain what I just gave a quick capsule on. So I started to actually go around the house and look at some of the things like my lieutenant commander's shoulder boards and collar devices and here's a guidebook from the New York World's Fair back in 64, 65. Blah, 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 so started gathering those and tried to show it to him. Okay, it's like, this is what Grandpa did, and he's like, no, Rich. So it's like, okay, I gotta write it down. So at least I'm gonna leave him something. So I started with notes, then it turned into pages. Then somebody said, well, yeah, this is kind of nice. So why don't you kind of organize it into a book? And so I did. So, there it is. So it actually is a book, and now there's a book sitting on my desk, usually in the closet. But it's kind of cool. So the one thing that I concluded from writing the book was, what is the one theme that's gone through my entire life? I'm a curious guy. Okay. Curiosity kind of drove everything. It allowed me to kind of open my mind every time and say, yeah, that kind of looks interesting. Maybe I should explore that. Maybe I should do that. And you can see it by the twists and turns in the career. And that's why I call it a career lattice and not a career path. There was no path unless it's like a kind of one of these.
Yeah.
And so it allowed me to just kind of move along, kind of write the book and get it now to a point where actually it's getting some traction out there. People are saying, this is kind of interesting. And there are some interesting conclusions. And like I said, curiosity of the world, curiosity about other people, and curiosity about oneself is what I try to address about Bob Danna. But then I think, somebody reading it goes, I think, yeah, I can take something away from that.
I love that. That's so much fun, and I can't wait to read that, and I might even tell my grandkids. I don't have any yet, but, we should read Bob's book. So, when I introduced you, one of the titles that you have is Fellow at Global Curiosity Institute. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, the Global Curiosity Institute was founded probably maybe 6, 7 years ago in Antwerp, Belgium. And the whole idea was globally, okay, to bring people together. And there's a small group of fellows. I was invited to be a fellow along with my partner, Lacey Lowe. She also has joined as a fellow, and she in her own right is an incredible individual. The whole purpose of the institute is to, in fact, promote kind of open-mindedness to everything that's going on in the world. So, kind of questioning, be curious, be skeptical. Question what the dogma is, and then try to get to actually a point where you kind of understand what's going on. So that's why kind of the curiosity about the world, other people, and yourself, you start to kind of put those in buckets. And it isn't people in your neighborhood. Yeah, that would be, that's probably what most people do right now. But I'm curious about people in the world, okay, in the world itself. So, whether or not you're able to travel, just be able to go in and experience that in whatever way you can.
Yeah. So being curious is a skill, I think, sometimes, especially for younger generations. And I know you spend a lot of time mentoring in that space. So,
I do.
how, for those people who are not just off the cuff, genuinely curious, how do you have those conversations with younger generations who are maybe more, I'll use the description self-absorbed, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that they're doing the things for themselves right now. And as young people, we did too, or I did. I shouldn't speak for everyone. But how are you having those conversations and creating that curiosity in the younger generations?
I'd say I kind of draw their attention back to them being 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Okay,
Mm.
it was natural, right? Who, what, when, where, how, yeah. Yeah. How many times did you hear that from your kids? I certainly heard it from, and I was probably the most curious child that I could imagine. Probably a total pain in the butt. But I draw their attention back to that, and it's like, see if you can re-embrace that, because if you can, it really allows you not to go down one specific channel, one specific kind of line of thinking, or just kind of listen to one opinion. It really asks you to step back into your childhood, okay, and remember what that was like, because it was pretty cool, right? As a kid, you're you're always kind of absorbing all kinds of stuff, and you love it, right? It's so exciting. And so what I try to do is talk to folks and kids and especially Gen Z, because they're going to need it. That's a muscle that they will absolutely need. That's going to be a life skill that they're going to absolutely need. And if in fact they do that and build that muscle, it's going to be something that's going to be valuable to them for their entire lifetime.
Absolutely. And practicing that who, what, when, where, why, how is a great place to start. I love to put those on a sticky note and just have them around with me,
Yeah,
right?
I
It's
do.
much
I've got a sticky note right here. Exactly. Always
yeah,
remind myself.
absolutely. Um, so we're about halfway through our conversation. I would love for you to share your contact information, Bob, in case someone is already curious
Sure.
how to connect with you. What is the best way?
Yeah, the best way is, well, it actually is a couple of ways. You can go to my website, which is mycuriouslife.net.
Mm.
Okay, mycuriouslife.net. And actually, there's kind of a summary of the book, a little bit more about what I'm doing, because I'm doing I'll tell you other interesting things. I'm very much into what's going to go on with AI these days, artificial intelligence.
Uh-huh.
And so it's on the website, and actually there's the AI Bob on the website who will explain the 10 benefits of embracing curiosity. So I've turned myself into AI Bob, and so you'll see that on the website as well. But there's also a blog. There's also a whole host of other podcasts that I've appeared as guest, et cetera. So it's a pretty rich site that you can kind of peruse. But you can link to me on LinkedIn. So I'm still very active as a professional. So just find Bob Danna, Robert Danna, and if you just put kind of Robert Danna Deloitte, there's only one of me out there. And so two N's, please, Danna. And so that's another way to do it. And then actually, on LinkedIn, you can actually reach out to me with a message. On my website, you can reach out to me with a message. And so, or any of those ways. I'm also on Substack right now. If any of your listeners use Substack, I love Substack. So you'll find me on Substack as, again, Robert Danna, and that goes, obviously a bit more political, but I'm also using my science creds on that. So it's some combination thereof. So it's any of those ways would be great. And I love to interact with any of your listeners who are interested to chat.
Beautiful. Thank you. And if you didn't catch it, it's Danna with two N's, Danna, just so that you can find Bob. And in some places, it's Robert. So, Bob.
And Trish, yeah, you had kind of, Trisha, I do have the book. You can find it on Amazon. So if you go on Amazon and put My Curious Life, Bob Danna, boom, it's right there. So
Perfect. And everybody should get a copy of Bob's book.
I do appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. So, Bob, before you even brought up AI, I really wanted to take us that direction. Just in the last few years, everything has really turned internal. And so, a lot of us individually are interfacing with AI and less with human beings. And so, how do you bring this idea of genuine curiosity alongside of where the world is going with AI and this robot interface? How do you see these two things coming together?
Yeah, and I'm actually quite positive on it. I've gone through now, a couple of technology revolutions. I mean, I started in high school and college and in the Navy using a slide rule. Okay. If anybody knows that, you probably find it in the Smithsonian Institute these days. But that's how we did calculations back then. So anybody says, "Well, I don't know about AI," and I was like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever." So don't be afraid, just embrace and move forward. So I think that the big thing is really trying to figuring out as an individual, your listeners, you and I. So what value do we add, human beings? Okay, because the technology is going to be there. So now, how do you, in fact, either the easiest thing is just, so how do I actually, query kind of an AI powered search engine? Okay, well, that would be a good skill to have these days. Okay, that's kind of basic skills, but even better, actually, I'm working with a guy, Ray DeRegis, who's putting together the Young Professionals Playbook. So youngprofessionalsplaybook.com. So we're actually doing something that we're trying to capture the kind of the insights, the experience, the wisdom of the Xers and the Gen and the Boomers to try to pass it to the Gen Zs. Specifically aimed at Gen Z, okay? And in fact, it is a complete marriage of AI and the human intelligence. So on that, I've actually worked on a module on curiosity. I've worked on a module on skepticism. I've worked on a module on embracing STEM, and it's all on the site. And actually, if you go to the one on curiosity, you'd wind up finding an AI bot, okay, who is in fact actually the host of the podcast, okay, who's now interviewing AI Bob, okay, and then there's a song that's generated about curiosity on the side. There's Q&A. There's actually guests that come in. All of it is a marriage of AI and humans, right? It couldn't have been done without what was in my brain, but we also couldn't have done that without actually embracing and taking advantage of the technology. So like I said, it's going to be a fairly wide spectrum of things that you can do, but it's just trying to figure out, okay, well, number one, don't resist, embrace, okay? And then if you embrace, figuring out how you personally, as a human being, okay, with your insight, your experience, your wisdom, all of those kinds of things, how do you now take that, okay, to your advantage in actually working with AI to generate something that AI and you probably could not have produced individually.
Wow. Yeah, as you're talking through that, I'm thinking about how I'm using AI for myself and for my business. And it's amazing the knowledge that you can tap into, which also leads me down this path of finding ourselves sitting alone with our AI. So, how do we, Bob, continue to engage each other in this true, genuine human curiosity where we're still talking to each other alongside of course, using AI and all of the technology that we have? But I see a lot of people pulling away from groups of people because they think maybe they don't need them, or it's just easier to sit in their office and play with their bots, right?
Yeah,
Instead of human interaction. So tell me more about that, as I know
yeah.
you're really into.
That's actually my biggest fear is
Okay.
that. Okay.
Okay.
So what I always tell everyone is it's more important than ever at this point to resist that. Okay. It takes a real effort because, that's kind of the easy way out. All right. And so actually being able to kind of participate in, the community, however that is, okay? And you say, well, but I can't really get in my car and go whatever. You don't have to. That's the beauty of today, right? We're on this, on this podcast. You can be on a Zoom group, okay? There's all kinds of social, elements of all of these networks. And I would certainly say, professionally, you try to do that. try to join groups that are professionally aligned with what you are trying to do or what you're doing. If you're doing it, provide your insights and wisdom to the group. If you're trying to get into it, listen and participate and absorb. Okay. But there's obviously the human interaction is going to be where it's all at. Okay. Over the next several years. If you're politically inclined, you don't have to go up and get into a rally. If you want to, that's fantastic. If you don't want to, get online, participate in one or more of these kind of social networks. The beauty right now with this whole podcasting and community structure is that there's no excuse, even if you're only sitting in your office, there's no excuse not to socially be involved. Human involvement with as many different people from all over your community, all over the country, all over the world. And it gives you a totally different perspective. And there's no way that you're going to be a functioning human being in this world if you don't do that.
Absolutely. And I've read studies and books. The book that comes to mind is The Blue Zone, and it talks about the importance of having that human community and people that you hang around with. It's part of growing old and being healthy as a human. So, Bob, on a personal note, I've heard that you're an event junkie. So, can you tell me more about that?
I am. I love going. Again, I do get up out of my office and go and do things. So I love live. Like last night, Lacey and I were at the Jimmy Kimmel's Comedy Club here in Las Vegas. So we do at night, and that's the joke around the neighborhood. Where's Lacey and Bob going tonight? Because everybody is. We live probably 20-25 minutes off of the Strip. And so if I dropped you in my neighborhood, you never know you're in Las Vegas. But most of the folks here go, "Oh no, you have to go down to the Strip and find a parking space." Blah, 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 blah. It's like, come on, So we go to shows and comedy clubs and go to dinner and just get out. Okay, and I've always done that. And then I've done things that are kind of crazy too. Like I chase total solar eclipses. And so my first one was back in the early 70s. Carly Simon's song. He took his Learjet to Nova Scotia to see a total eclipse of the sun. I was in college, and we did go to Prince Edward Island to see it. I was in Manhattan in college. We didn't take the Learjet. We took a Volkswagen microbus up to Prince Edward Island.
A little different than the song.
We camped all the way, including on Prince Edward Island, to watch the eclipse. But since then, I've gone to an eclipse cruise where we saw one in the Sea of Cortez between Mazatlan and Cabo San Lucas in Austria. Last year I was with the Planetary Society in Texas. Bill Nye, the science guy.
Yeah.
And he and 800 of his closest friends, including myself, were in a field in Texas watching the eclipse. So again, that if you kind of think about it, I've traveled, like I said, all over the world, both for business and pleasure. So I like to get out. The key is once you get out and you're doing things, it again changes your whole perspective of everything. So that's why, when I'm saying I'm an experienced junkie, I like to read. Okay. I like to interface, like we are here. But there's nothing like actually going out, meeting people, doing things, I actually kind of live modestly, but well. Okay. And the well part is not my home, not, the car I drive, whatever. The well part is, how I pay for things to go out and add to my experiences.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of these stories. So as we close today, I have one last question for you. And because you're a fellow veteran, and I want to celebrate this in my Beyond the Uniform series, my question to you is, how did your military experience really contribute to who you are today, Bob?
Yeah, I would say like I said, I was recruited to be an instructor at the Naval Nuclear Power School in 1975. With that, I had to go down to D.C., Crystal City, go through a whole battery of interviews, including being interviewed by Admiral Rickover, the father of the nuclear navy. And so that, and I actually interfaced with him a number of times after that, when I was actually at nuke school and the like. But one of the things that is the big takeaway, okay, is, what does the military instill in you? Okay, number one, I'd say integrity, and so that's the one thing that I think is if in fact you're in the military, yes, you're going to get all of the kind of the teamwork and getting the mission done and all of those kinds of things, but the one thing that I think takes away, that if you can bring it into science and engineering and business and everything else, okay, I don't care, okay, but if you kind of never compromise your integrity, I'd say that changes your life. And that's why military people, okay, people who have been in the military, kind of experienced the military, and that's ingrained in you, okay. That's what makes, I think, and I've hired hundreds of ex-military, because I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get somebody who will never compromise their integrity. I can teach you everything else. I can develop everything else I can do. But if in fact somebody is not going to ever compromise their integrity, they are incredibly valuable to any business, certainly engineering, certainly the sciences, whatever it might be. Anything that requires a discipline, okay, I think is what I took away, and I'll tell you, that's I commented on the book a number of times, including the list of the attributes that Rickover is looking for anyone in his program. He's long gone at this point. Sorry, the guy was great. But I'd say, his list of attributes, if you go down that list, which is in the book as well, it's something that if you're living your life by that, those values, those guiding principles, are things that you're taking away from the military, but apply incredibly to any business.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Bob. And by the way, you guys, if you didn't catch it earlier, go to Amazon. You can find Bob's memoir, My Curious Life. If my grandkids ask about me, tell them this. Bob or Robert Danna. It's Danna. You can find it right there on Amazon. Bob, this has been so much fun today. I feel like you have to come back so we can talk about more stories.
I'll come back anytime, Tricia.
I would love that.
I love chatting with you.
Thank you. That would be so much fun. So, Bob, once again, tell people how they can find you, and then we'll wrap the show.
Sure. It's, again, mycuriouslife.net, or go to LinkedIn and just put in Robert Danna, My Curious Life, or Robert Danna, Deloitte, and you'll find me immediately. And so just kind of reach out, connect to me, say hi. I heard you on Trisha's program. Look forward to chatting, and you'll get a chat. I mean, I'm very open. I love to speak to individuals, and I also help a lot of folks. Like I said, don't get paid for anything anymore. Okay, it's all the joy I get out of actually giving back.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. And that's how Bob and I found each other. We had mutual military contacts, and I reached out to Bob, and he said, yes, I want to have a conversation. So thank you so much for being on with me today. This has been my pleasure to have you, and I look forward to our next conversation, Bob.
Same here, Tricia. Hey, I loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that's all the time we have for today. If you found value in this conversation, share it with a fellow entrepreneur, veteran, or a Houston leader ready to grow. And be sure to follow, rate, and review the show. It helps us reach more bold business minds just like yours. Your business, your leadership, and your legacy are built one intentional step at a time. So stay inspired, stay focused, and keep building the business and the life you deserve.